Carl Jung once said that the most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. But what no one really talks about is how early we learn to reject ourselves, not because we're bad, but simply because no one ever showed us how to stay whole. This isn't therapy, it's a reckoning. This is a letter to the boy I left behind, not in some dramatic moment, but slowly. In every moment I stayed silent instead of speaking. In every moment I swallowed truth just to keep the peace. There was a boy who needed me, and I didn't come. Not when he looked around the room and realized no one was listening. Not when he started watching shadows move across the hallway wall like they were characters in a better story. Not when he figured out how to fold his feelings so tightly, even he couldn't find them anymore. You learned the rules quickly. Speak when spoken to. Laugh so they don't ask questions. Smile just enough to be liked, but not so much that they call you weird. Be helpful but not needy, smart but not arrogant, kind but not sensitive. You became a master at shrinking, at noticing tension before it even had a name, at decoding voices through closed doors, at changing who you were just fast enough to avoid punishment. That's how survival works. Not by force, but by adaptation. And the world praised you for it. They said you were so mature for your age. But they didn't see the price. The price was your softness, your questions, your voice. No one noticed when it disappeared because, honestly, the world doesn't mourn what it doesn't recognize. There's a scene I carry in my chest, like an old photograph. You're 7, sitting at the edge of a family gathering, picking at the peeling edge of a wooden table. You've drawn a picture, a castle, a boy, a dragon with a human face. You hold it up to show someone. They say, "That's nice, sweetie," and turn away. And something in you folds inward, not all at once, just a little, just enough. That was the first time you thought, maybe what I love doesn't matter. That silence, it wasn't peace, it was erasure. And I'm not here to pretend I can undo it, but I can name it. You were never invisible. They just didn't know how to look. You were never too sensitive. They just didn't know how to stay. You were never a burden. They just didn't know how to hold something that felt like truth. This isn't nostalgia, it's not a memory lane stroll with soft piano and tidy emotions. This is a rescue mission. And the person I'm rescuing is you, the boy who kept waiting for someone to notice, someone to name the ache, someone to say, "You're not too much, you're not broken, you're not alone. I don't have all the answers, but I have a voice now. And I'm going to use it. You waited long enough, so I'm here not to fix you, but to finally say what no one did. You make sense, and that alone makes you worthy." There's a moment every child remembers. It's not the loudest moment, it's not when someone yells, it's when they don't, when you bring your joy, your tears, your wonder to the room and they meet you with a sigh, a glance, a silence that tells you, this part of you doesn't belong here, and so you begin to edit. That's when the mask is born. You didn't wear it to deceive, you wore it to survive. You became agreeable, flexible, easy to love. You made yourself digestible. You stopped asking for too much. You apologized before anyone had the chance to blame you. You made jokes to fill the silence because, well, silence had started to feel like disapproval. They called you mature. But what they were praising was your disappearance, like the Velveteen Rabbit, who only became real after being worn down by love, grief, and time. You thought becoming lovable meant losing the parts of you they didn't understand. So you chipped away your edges, you shrank until you fit, you laughed at jokes that hurt, you smiled through tears. You learned how to look okay, and they believed you. Because people believe what makes them comfortable. You thought your anxiety was just ambition, your overthinking just intelligence, your perfectionism just standards. But underneath all that was shame. Not the kind you scream about, the quiet kind, the kind that whispers, if they saw the real you, they'd leave. You began to pre-reject yourself before anyone else could. You stopped sharing your dreams because someone might laugh. You stopped crying because someone might roll their eyes. You stopped feeling because someone might call it drama. You told yourself, I'm just private. But really, you were hiding. You weren't reserved. You were bracing for impact. And the mask? It worked. You got by, you got applause, you got respect, but you didn't get seen. Carl Jung once said, everyone carries a shadow, and the less it is embodied in the individual's conscious life, the blacker and denser it is. You buried your shadow so deep you forgot it was there. You confused silence for peace, disconnection for confidence. You thought the absence of pain meant you were healed. But numbness isn't healing, it's self-abandonment in disguise, and I see it now. You didn't need someone to tell you how to behave. You needed someone to tell you the truth, that emotions don't make you weak, that needing connection isn't shameful, that hiding is what you do when you're not sure if anyone's coming to find you. Well, I found you, not to tear off the mask, but to hold it gently, to thank it for what it did, and to ask, are you ready? Are you ready to see who you are beneath the performance? Not the boy they applauded, but the boy who painted dragons, the boy who loved out loud, the boy who cried in hallways and never told anyone why. He's still here and he's done hiding, because it's not too late to become real, and it never was. They called you strong, but they never asked what that strength cost you. You didn't grow up resilient. You grew up ready to explain, ready to defend, ready to disappear. You didn't develop toughness. You developed tactics, because there wasn't someone to say, this is too much for you. So you said it to yourself, and then you carried it anyway. Your survival wasn't loud, it was quiet excellence, impressive independence, the kind of composure that gets you praised while you're silently drowning. You didn't survive childhood, you outmaneuvered it. You learned to scan a room like it was a battlefield, to read the tension in voices before the first word landed, to spot disappointment hiding behind a smile, to keep your feelings folded so small they couldn't be used against you. You didn't cry, you negotiated. You didn't need help, you over-delivered. You didn't ask for anything, you earned everything. They said, look how mature you are, and you thought they have no idea. You built an armor so convincing even you mistook it for your skin. But here's the part that no one talks about. The armor works until it doesn't. It protects you from pain, but it also muffles joy. It shields you from rejection, but it blocks connection. And after a while, the armor doesn't feel like safety. It feels like silence. It feels like numbness. It feels like loneliness dressed as competence. There's a memory that lives in your body more than in your mind. You're 10, sitting in the back seat of a car, staring out the window. You've just been told to grow up again, and so you make a vow. You clench your teeth, you stop crying, you decide quietly, I won't need them anymore, and you didn't. But that moment didn't make you powerful, it made you armored. The armor helped you get through school, jobs, relationships. It earned you respect, but it cost you intimacy. Because when people tried to love you, they didn't know how to get past it. Not because they didn't care, but because you never let them see what needed loving. You handed them your competence, your polish, your best case version, and wondered why you still felt alone. But it wasn't loneliness, it was your younger self, knocking, not asking to be strong, not asking to be right, just asking to be seen. You were never broken, you were never cold, you were never hard-hearted, you were soft and tired of being punished for it. That softness didn't vanish, it armored up. And now, years later, you're still wearing that same suit of protection, even though the threat is long gone, Carl Jung said. What you resist not only persists, but grows in size. You've resisted vulnerability so long that it now feels foreign, but it's not, it's you underneath it all. The boy who used to cry at sad endings, who drew heroes with capes because he needed one, who wanted someone to tell him, you don't have to carry it alone. You didn't get that voice then, but you have it now. And I'll say what no one did. You don't have to be the strong one anymore. Strength is not the armor. Strength is removing it and still standing. And if you're scared of who you'll be without it, that's okay. That's how you know you're about to meet the part of you you had to leave behind just to survive. And this time, Senai, you don't have to survive. You get to live. For a long time, I thought healing meant going back to the place it all began, back to the wound, back to the pain I never wanted to feel again. But I've learned something else. Healing isn't a return to the moment you were hurt. It's a return to the part of you that never stopped hoping someone would come back for you. You didn't want a hero. You wanted a witness. And now that I'm older, now that I've survived everything you thought might kill us, I see that I've become what you needed most. A voice. A presence. A hand on your shoulder saying, you don't have to do this alone anymore. Carl Jung once described something called active imagination, a way of engaging with the unconscious, not as a theory, but as a dialogue, not with a therapist, not with a journal, but with yourself, the child self, the shadow self, the part of you that never got to finish the sentence. So I sat down and I listened, not to memories, but to emotions, not to logic, but to longing. I listened to the boy who used to cry in the dark, not because he was afraid of monsters, but because no one asked if he was okay. The boy who stood too long in doorways, waiting to be invited. The boy who learned to walk quietly because his footsteps always felt too loud. I used to run from him, now I write to him, and he writes back. Not in language, but in loosened fists, in fewer apologies, in a feeling that I don't need to explain myself anymore. He's not angry that I left. He's just relieved that I finally came back, and I told him, I'm here now. Not to fix you, not to scold you, just to hold what no one else did, because he doesn't need to be healed. He needs to be heard. He doesn't need a new story. He needs the old one to be honored. This is the return, not to childhood, but to selfhood. To the part of you that still believes wonder is real, that love doesn't have to hurt. That softness is not weakness. It's memory that survived. You don't have to rewrite the past, but you do have to stop running from it. And when you finally stop, you'll find he's still there, waiting. Not for perfection, not for strength, just for you. And when he asks, are you going to leave again? You'll smile, you'll kneel down, and you'll say, not this time. I'm here now. And I'm staying. I'll be honest, I didn't want to forgive you. For a long time I blamed you for not speaking up, for freezing when it mattered, for letting us be hurt without fighting back, for being too soft, too trusting, too emotional, too much. But the truth is, I wasn't angry at you. I was angry that no one protected you. And you became the face of that absence, because it's easier to resent a child version of myself than to admit the adults around us weren't ready. Easier to scold you than to grieve what you never received, but I see it now. You weren't the reason things went wrong. You were the reason we're still here. You didn't know what to do, so you did whatever it took. You smiled to avoid punishment. You stayed silent to avoid shame. You became perfect to earn love. And no one ever told you that wasn't your job. You weren't supposed to carry the weight of the room. You weren't meant to interpret sighs and footsteps like they were codes to crack. You weren't supposed to be the emotionally fluent one in a house full of suppression. But no one explained that to you. They just called you sensitive, dramatic, difficult. And you believed them because no one said the opposite. No one said, you're not the problem. You're not overreacting. You're responding exactly how a nervous system responds when love feels unpredictable. So you rewrote yourself. You began to preempt judgment by becoming who they needed before they asked. You said sorry before you knew what you'd done. You explained yourself in rooms where no one was really listening. And still, you stayed. You stayed in your body, in your intuition, in your capacity to feel even when feeling brought no reward. There's a memory that still stings. You're 8. It's your birthday. You're holding a handmade card you spent an hour coloring, waiting in the hallway to give it to someone who never notices. You finally leave it on the kitchen counter and walk away. And for years, you believed that meant you weren't lovable enough to matter. But that was never true. The absence was not your reflection, it was their limitation. And I forgive you for believing otherwise, for turning that pain inward, for assuming that if love didn't arrive, the problem must be you. Carl Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. That unconscious belief, that your needs are burdens, that your voice is too loud, that love must be earned through excellence. It's not fate, it's a misunderstanding. A leftover myth from a time when you were too young to argue with the silence. So I'm rewriting the story, not to change the past, but to change how it lives inside you. You are not broken because you adapted. You are not shameful because you tried too hard. You were brilliant. You were intuitive. You were a child doing the job of an adult who never showed up. And now that I've returned, I'm here to say what no one did. Thank you. You didn't fail. You didn't deserve that silence. You don't have to earn peace by suffering for it. Forgiveness isn't about letting anyone off the hook. It's about unhooking yourself from the belief that you deserve the pain. You didn't. You never did. And from this day forward, you'll never be the one who gets blamed for surviving. You'll be the one who gets thanked. You'll be the one who is finally met with the words you waited for all along. I see you, I believe you, and you're already enough. This is where the story turns, because healing isn't a return to innocence. It's the discovery of strength you didn't know you had because you were too busy using it to survive. The boy who waited in silence, he didn't vanish. He became your intuition, your ache, your insight, your depth. He became the part of you that feels everything too much and sees too far ahead. The part that hesitates before speaking because he still remembers when no one listened. He didn't ruin you. He preserved you. He's not the wound, he's the witness. He's the one who kept the flame alive while you built your mask, your armor, your perfect smile. And now he's looking at you, not with judgment, but with hope. Because you've come back with a voice that says, I'm not going to betray you to fit in. I'm not going to abandon you to feel acceptable. I'm not going to silence you to seem strong. You were once a child who needed someone to say, you matter just as you are, and now you're the one who can say it. You're the voice now, not the perfect voice, not the healed voice, but the honest one. Carl Jung wrote, the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are, and who you are isn't the product of your wounds. It's the soul that emerged from them, the wisdom, the softness, the radical refusal to forget your younger self, even when it hurt to remember. You are not just healing, you are becoming, not someone new, but someone whole, the kind of person who can say to a child, your child, someone else's child, the child you once were, I see you. I know it's hard, but you are not too much. You are just in a world that forgot how to feel. You've become that voice, the one you waited for, the one who came back, the one who stayed, and now it's your turn to write the words you once needed, to say them out loud, to share them with someone who still doesn't know they matter. Because out there's another boy who thinks he's invisible, another girl who blames herself for the silence, another child with a drawing they're too scared to show. They're waiting, and now you're the voice. You don't need a stage, you don't need to be perfect, you just need to speak. And when you do, that's when the healing leaves your body and becomes a light for someone else. That's when this story becomes more than a letter, it becomes a movement. So share this, pass it on, write your own. Because someone out there still thinks they're the only one who feels this way. And they won't know they're not alone until they hear your voice.